Hello, everybody. Two peas in a library here. I am Bree. That is Lou, way over there, halfway across the country from me. How sad. Um,
Not halfway across the country from each other.
it's close enough. So today's video is going to be about reviewing and doing a compare and contrast of the movie Horns by Joe Hill, comparing it to the book that he wrote. The movie's on Netflix, and I feel like it was pretty popular when it came out, mainly because of Daniel Radcliffe's star appearance in the movie. So you probably have heard of it, if not seen it. Um, and hopefully, if you guys are watching this, you have already seen our review of the book. So that is mainly what we will be comparing and contrasting in this video today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the first thing I want to say, Daniel Radcliffe cannot do a good American accent. Just,
Just
just,
can't do it.
it wasn't bad, but there are too many words where he kept having an English accent over it, which is fine, but not when it's an American-based movie.
I do kind of like him as I do think they made a good casting choice.
Yes, he was definitely the perfect person for Egg. I don't know many other people that I can think of that was somewhat well known at the time that it was made that would make a good Egg. So I don't hate him as Egg. I just hate his accent.
Yes. And also, real quick before we get any further, because I feel like this is a pretty pertinent thing, pretty early on in the movie is a trigger warning for sexual content of the movie. There is no hiding the nudity that is present in that movie. There's not a lot of it. It's mainly all present in the beginning. So if you can make it through the beginning, you'll basically be fine. But just sex and nudity. There's no kind of blurring, no beating around the bush. It's there. So just be prepared. If you're listening to it with family in the room, turn the volume down.
Yeah, and then there is one point in the movie where a guy, under the influence of the horns, wants everyone to see his penis and pulls it out.
Yeah, that
Which was
too.
very different.
They don't blur that either. It's there.
Yeah.
So
But anyways, um, so our of the two, so this is our second movie that we're reviewing that we've compared to a book, and of the other one that we watched, which was Every Day, this one by far is much better. Like just the casting, the pacing, the following of the book, and even the changes they made, like because there are like some major changes, it makes sense for the most part.
yeah, I feel like the movie did okay. I mean, it made a fine standalone movie. I am a pretty bad critic when it comes to comparing books to movies because I really expect the book to pretty much follow the movie exactly. I am greatly disappointed otherwise. I feel like the changes that were made from the book to the movie were changes that they felt were necessary for a movie format and what they had to work with and like the time frame they had to work with, especially with it being the length of the movie and everything. So I couldn't be too mad. It was definitely a good movie. Um, but there are some key differences. Like we'll debate Lee's character here in a minute because there are some key differences in the way that they did him and his role
Key
in the movie.
differences.
So many.
He's just a straight up different character.
Yeah, like if
Basically.
like if they would have just like if they didn't introduce him, I would be like, who the heck is that? Because I don't know
Yeah.
who that is.
Like, yeah. Yeah. But we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah, so I feel like the beginning started off pretty closely, like almost like the beginning was amazing, like especially
I
like
don't know. I hated so for the beginning, my biggest problem was that they showed what Ig did. They didn't leave it as a suspense kind of thing. They didn't like cut from him like maybe drinking in the nighttime to him waking up the next morning with nothing in between. I really hated the fact that they like showed that he had like all that he had done, like the reasoning behind him growing the horns and all of that. And then I also hated the fact that like Glenna was there and stopped him because it's like no one was there to see that. Like
yeah,
they had already been in the book. They had already become like not a well, I guess a couple kind of, but
Yeah, well, like I feel like I wasn't mad at that because, like we discussed in our book review, the whole like that suspense of leading up to like why did he get the horns was so underwhelming, anyways. That I feel like even if they did try to take that approach with the movie, it would still have the same effect of being underwhelming. So like I'm not too mad at that production choice. Um, the one thing that kind of that was a little off for me was the fact that I got the vibe from the book that Ig and Glenna had kind of been in an on-off relationship for a while up to that point. Um, at least I don't want to say like using each other, but like there with each
I
other.
think they were comforting each other in a
Yeah.
sense.
And then like
And I do think Ig straight up says in the book that they've been like at least living together for a few months or something.
yeah, and in the movie it seemed like
That
that was
was like their
the first time.
first night together.
Yeah. So that was the kind of off-putting thing for me, but um, the scene with Glenna, though, like the introduction to Glenna's character was pretty amazing. I laughed out loud during the scene where she's eating all the donuts because she like kind of like starts to throw it up. She's like, mm-mm. I'm like, that's rude.
Yeah, I kind of wish that they had followed the book a little more with that scene where like you just get the like where she just like buries her head in the box and like just eats it from the box like that, like she does in the book. But I don't hate how they did that scene because they definitely followed the book to a T. Besides like her shoving her whole face in the box.
Literally, Glenna in that scene is how I feel every time I eat a donut.
Literally, yeah, I feel it. Like I just, yeah. But I think Glenna and Egg are definitely like perfect castings in the book or in the movie. I think my only like super nitpicky kind of thing, I think in the book she's already a little heavier set. So I kind of wish they had kind of found someone who was already a little heavier set, but I don't hate that they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Glenna was pretty much how I pictured her. Like she wasn't like heavier set, but she could tell that she was like a little thick, and I think that's just kind of how I pictured her. So like I was pretty okay with it.
Yeah. And I think
But
that's just more of how, like, when you're reading, you kind of get your own ideas of what the person looks like.
yeah,
Um,
and then I really liked, you know,
the the
the scene.
doctor scene.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. So like those scenes are literally so perfect. Cause like
Right.
reading something like that, you picture it a certain kind of way in your head, and then to see it put out
Like,
exactly
yeah,
the way that you
it
pictured it in the
was
movie, it's phenomenal.
it was amazing. I loved it. Like the kid actor, I think it was a little much with the kid actor. I don't think that they. I think they kind of the kid actor like kind of overdid it, but that's just being nitpicky. But the whole like scene, and I think another nitpicky thing was like I think at least for me, I kind of pictured a younger receptionist instead of an older one.
This old lady is just yelling. I'm like, get it, grandma.
And then yeah, like they do like the whole flash to the mom with the golf coach and what I really liked about the movie that like a lot of movies don't do when they're copying from a book or they don't do it very well is they took like full sentences from the book. Like the mom does the joke with the 5 iron and then like the kid saying that she wants to burn her mom and the receptionist yelling. Like they took a lot of full sentences, like full dialogues from the book and put it into the movie instead of like trying to change it up, which I think I really appreciated and made it a much better movie than it could have been.
Because like you weren't expecting it, so like I'm sitting there watching the scene, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, yeah, they did it. Good job.
Yeah, like you don't like
Fuck.
yeah. You wouldn't necessarily think that they would, but then the mom just like the whole flash to the sex and then the joking, oh yes, I joke or I call it my 5 iron or whatever. So yeah, it was just a good like expectation for the movie at that point.
Yes, I feel like the actors did a really good job too because I feel like for what was expected, it required a lot of like raw emotion, a lot of just raw, blatant, unfiltered like anger and feeling, and I think they did a good job. So I was very impressed.
Yeah, like especially when you like have Daniel Radcliffe as your main person, and everyone knows him as Harry Potter and stuff. Like you kind of have to make sure to find some people that can um, back him really well. Like all of that. So, and I think they did a really good job. Like all of the casting choices were spot on, except for one.
We all know who that is.
Yeah, yeah. Do we just want to talk about Lee right now? Just
yeah, I mean he's the elephant in the room, and he's really our biggest discussion point.
yeah, like yeah, like we said, his whole character is basically changed. Like they don't make him the all-American, blonde hair, blue-eyed boy that he's supposed to be. That he's black-haired, dark-haired.
Yeah.
With like I don't know what color his eyes were, but he wasn't like the all-American prince that you think he would be, that he should be. Like when you first watched the movie, we talked about it, and I joked that they should have had like Tom Felton play him, which at this point would have been a much better casting choice, even though like at least for me, I pictured Lee as having a very like thin face, like being very lanky and thin and skinny. So Tom Felton obviously wouldn't necessarily be the best choice for that, but compared to what we got, it would have been a better choice.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I had a lot of high expectations for this character because in the book you see him as a very disturbed child and an even more disturbed adult. Very psychologically messed up, and so it takes a certain kind of person and actor to be able to pull that kind of vibe off. And with such a strong vibe given from the book, I really expected that in the movie and was very disappointed because you don't really get that. Like, they don't build his character in that way.
They don't give like any scenes to show that he is like dark and depraved, except for Marin's murder rape scene. Like, and having read the book, like it didn't. You obviously knew that was happening, but like, if you were someone coming in from not reading the book, I feel like that would be kind of out of left field almost.
Yeah, because like Lee's character up to that point was seemed perfectly normal. He was perfectly fine, and then you would find out that he was the one that killed Marion and like how it happened, and you'd be like, that is so like not him, but in the book that was him. Like we expected that from the beginning.
Like I know in the movie there's like he like definitely says some offhanded things that like as Egg you wouldn't necessarily take as being wrong, but like as an audience member who's read the book and knows the whole story, you can definitely see like, oh, they're trying, but they just didn't hit the mark on Lee because like they don't like do any flashbacks to like his childhood, which I think that could have definitely been something they could have added just to kind of not throw it in like, oh hey, this guy is the one that kills Marin, because especially in the movie I feel like it's almost leaning more towards Terry having done it, and I almost thought that they were having it be Terry.
Same.
But we can get to that scene in a sec. But while in the book, like it's like built up that he's just kind of like a weird kid who has some screws loose, as you said. But and then like the other changes that they made was that he went from being like a working for a politician to being Egg's lawyer, which I didn't hate because it made sense for the movie to have him be that way. So then they have more like screen time together. So it makes sense to do it that way. So I didn't hate that.
I mean, I would have liked it better if they more would have played like the way that I really feel like that would have worked best if they really played like if they weren't gonna go with Lee being a messed up character psychologically, then they should have really leaned heavy on building like the best friend kind of bond between Lee and Ig, and then having that like utter betrayal of my best friend killed my fiance. But like instead they kind of did like a mediocre like in between when they should have done one or the other.
Yeah, definitely. Because, like, you get scenes when they were younger about, like, how I guess, more backstory than what the book really gave us, because in the book it's mostly just Ig and Marin and like mentions of Lee hanging out with them also, because Lee becomes their best friend to both of them. But in the movie it's just kind of like he's always there, which I don't think Ig and like I don't think Ig would care, but I think Marin, like being young and in love, I just don't think she would always want Lee there. So yeah, they definitely should have leaned heavier one way or the other, but it's kind of neither here nor there on that kind of point. They just basically made him a whole new character, which I didn't appreciate.
Yeah. And then, like, do we want to talk about, like, how it went from being his eye to his hand?
Yeah, so in the book, like, obviously there's the whole point of Ig trading Marin's cross for the cherry bomb, and then Lee blowing up a car and getting a piece of shrapnel caught in his eye. But in the movie, for whatever reason, like, this really doesn't make any sense, because they still could have done the eye thing, but instead they had it go off in his hand, and it like totally screwed up his hand, and it looked like he had a missing finger, at least one missing finger, and then like he was just all screwed up, right? But then apparently there's no lasting damage. Like, I was watching later in the movie when he's an adult, and I was trying to see his hand, and it didn't look like there's like any damage to it.
Yeah, because like it also, like, when the scene happens, like you see the messed up hand.
Yeah, like he's like all bandaged, and it, like at least with his like ring finger, it looks like it's missing, if not another finger. And then you don't see like anything to make it look like he has a prosthetic on or anything like that. So unless those doctors are real good at surgery.
Yeah, we're real picky about that inconsistencies type of thing, you know. So like,
yeah, like I think if they had at least like made it so he was still missing the finger or whatever, I don't think I would care as much. But since they didn't, I don't see why they didn't just keep it as the eye being what was missing.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like they had to find a guy missing an actual eye. They could have just put like a contact in or something to make it cloudier, because that's all it was.
Yeah.
And I think a little bit lazy, but I don't think that would have been a huge thing that I would have been looking for in the eye. But yeah, and then I think the other biggest thing that really bugged me was that they changed the I guess main location, I'll call it, from the abandoned foundry to like a logging place, which I didn't really get, because it just didn't make any sense for it to be changed, unless they just couldn't find a good factory, I guess.
Oh yeah, and like I feel like a lot of important scenes happened in that kind of a setting, so I feel like by not having that, they automatically just ruined a lot of the ending.
Yeah, like, because in the book, like, they move around a lot in it during the final fighting scene, so I feel like not having that kind of screws it up, and especially since the treehouse is like right at the bottom of the Evel Knievel hill, and instead of making it so like we're in the movie, they're on a lake or like some body of water without any trees, but there are like logs in the water. It's like a logging place. I don't know exactly what it is. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, because then in the ending in the movie is in a totally like different place. Like, it just didn't make any sense for that move also.
Yeah. And thinking about that now, since we're talking about like the ending and like the fight scenes and everything like that, something that really bugged me that I don't think we noticed in our discussion before recording this, but something that I just now realized is that because when we were reviewing the book, we were talking about how he was described as wearing like the trench coat and the skirt because that's a lot of how the devil is depicted. And I can't remember correctly. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, but I don't think that they did that in the movie.
No, they just, so what they did, and I don't necessarily hate this part either, because it was, like, not a huge deal. Like, I don't know if maybe Daniel Radcliffe just wasn't comfortable or whatever. I don't know the reasoning why they didn't, but when he gets burnt, he just, it's more of a realistic description of him being burnt alive, where his like clothes kind of melt into his skin, so he still gets that gross, grotesque look to him. He just doesn't wear a skirt and the trench coat.
Yeah. And I do love like how he kind of like transformed, like, you know, there's symbolism in the whole trench coat and skirt thing, but there's also symbolism in how we typically picture a devil, you know, like rough skin, horns, not pretty to look at. They kind of took that approach, which I kind of appreciated because they did it and they did it well. Because I feel like there was a lot of opportunity for them to mess that look up, but they didn't. So I guess that was okay.
Yeah, like I like him before he does his final transformation in the last act, which I absolutely hated. But we can talk about that later.
Yeah.
So. That was bad. Oh, what else? Oh, and then so with the treehouse, I really hated that they didn't like make it the whole mystical being that it is. Really, like, yeah, I just hated that they didn't make it the whole mystical thing, like, and all of that. What else? Oh, and then just a fun little catch that we saw was the Paul Revere statue. Because that's not mentioned in the book whatsoever, so we figured that that was like some kind of Easter egg for Stephen King.
It was.
Since, you know, Joe, yeah, probably.
Because if any of y'all have like read the book, it or seen
the new, yeah,
and y'all probably like, I don't want to say like it's not like the exact statue or anything like that, but it definitely has the vibe. You recognize the vibe.
yeah, you definitely know it's a Paul Revere statue. And like, I'm not a huge Stephen King reader just because I find him a little difficult to read, but it's definitely a very big thing in it, according to you.
Do we want to talk about how like something that I kind of want to talk about was the difference between Terry and Ig's relationship in the book and the movie? So I feel like there is kind of like a big difference, especially with the way that Ig handled the situation. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, like, so I'll let you start talking to make sure we're on the same wavelength, but
yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, like in the book, it feels like, you know, and I feel like up to this point they got it okay because like in the book, Terry is described as Ig's, you know, number one backup, always came to his defense, was always his number one supporter, even more so than his parents, I would beg to argue. And he was always there for him, and Ig was so afraid to confront his brother once he realized what the Horns was doing because he didn't want that relationship to be ruined by any kind of hard truth that Terry might have, be it the power of the Horns and everything like that. And so that made it very clear that their relationship was so strong, you know, that they were very close, and I got that vibe from the book, and I loved it because it ended up playing a very vital role in the rest of the book, especially towards the end when it comes to Ig and Terry's interactions. But I feel like in the movie that just like that whole relationship, which is the whole relationship aspect and the part that had to play in the storyline, just kind of got abolished when Ig actually tried to overdose Terry.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to overdose him. He was just trying to make Terry feel how Marin felt. And in the movie, like, there's like little hints that they're like really close. Like, at the beginning, it gets mad about something at dinner, so he goes outside, and like Terry comes out playing the trumpet, like kind of doing a whole brotherly thing. and tries to comfort Ig then, but there isn't like a whole lot saying that they have a really close relationship. Like even in the flashbacks, like the big one is like when Eric doesn't want to give Ig his last cherry bomb. Glenna is the one who really forces Eric to give it to Ig and not Terry, like in the book. So like they like tried, but they didn't like try their hardest, I guess.
Yeah. And I feel like the whole relationship between Ig and Terry is a lot of what clues us into Terry's character. And
Yeah.
I feel like we were missing a whole lot of that, especially since there was such a lack of a relationship. I feel like that played into what made it so easy to believe that they were going to make Terry the one who killed Marin.
Yeah,
It
because
was definitely going down that vibe for a long while in the movie.
yeah, I didn't. It wasn't great, um, and all of that. They definitely should have done more, but it also wasn't the worst because I don't know. I think for the movie they should have like chosen a better storyline almost, you know? Like
Yeah.
I like that they really followed the book, that they had a lot of like the dialogue from the book and a lot of the scenes. But they changed the scenes like almost so dramatically, like with the tree house and with like how the night of goes down and how the night of like Marin's killing goes down, and they just changed so much that they should have like just changed the whole movie almost.
Yeah. Do you actually? So is that what you want? Do you want to talk about that next? The scenes leading up to Marin's death.
Yeah, so in the scenes leading up to Marin's death are quite different than the way that they do it in the book, because I think in the book it's even at a bar and not a diner like it is.
Mm-hmm.
But like the scene before, or one of the scenes before, like Ig is out shopping for a ring with Terry and Lee, and is like telling them like, "Oh, I'm gonna do it tonight. Um, show up at this place at this time so we can party and all of that." And then when it happens, like obviously it's a big dramatic thing, and they actually do this scene really well. It was one of the better scenes. Like they basically copy and pasted it from the book almost.
Yeah.
Um, but so and Ig storms off, drives away, and all of that, and then Marin is left there. And instead of like Terry and Lee coming from a party, which in the movie wouldn't necessarily make too much sense, so they could have still played it off that way.
Mm-hmm.
Terry comes alone and finds Marin and like is gonna take her to her house or something. I don't know. They were just driving around and he was like trying to get her to take some drugs to make her feel better. And this is where we said like it definitely felt like they were gonna make it be Terry who's the one that actually like kills her and all of that. Like these scenes don't exactly help. And then they pull over because Marin is trying to get out of the car. Like she just wants to be alone or whatever. So he pulls over and he like sits on the side of the road waiting for her to come back and falls asleep because he's already like fucked up. I don't know, like whatever he took. And then I don't know like exactly how, because it definitely isn't explained in the movie, but Lee like apparently happens upon them, I guess, and sees that Marin isn't there, so he goes looking for her, and then the scene happens.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely wasn't like well done because I really don't understand why they changed that scene up as much as they did. Because especially since in the scene before when Egg is ring shopping, Terry and Lee are there with him, so it would have made sense for them to go out together, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was. I also feel like I know that you had talked about like because when we were reviewing the book, we had kind of gone off the assumption that Marin kind of let it happen due to her situation and her condition, and maybe that didn't quite go down the way that it should have in the movie.
Yeah, and like, so obviously in the book and in the movie also, Marin has breast cancer, and like as we've theorized that in the book, at least, she kind of let it happen, like didn't fight it too much, so she would not have to go through that pain. But in the movie, she like fights it more, which like is definitely a better description, I would assume, of it, like having that happen to someone. But it just doesn't necessarily follow Marin's character. So that also kind of bugged me, because it was like, well, what was the whole point, really? Like, I don't know. I don't think that they necessarily needed to have that have it shown. They could have definitely more implied it, but
Yeah.
With it being such a huge thing in the book, I still think they did it like tactfully, I guess, tastefully.
Yeah.
And like
They did, but like I said, the whole thing just kind of, even like for someone who read the book, that still kind of came out of left field just because they didn't build these character up to it, which is something that that's always gonna bug me. But
yeah, like yeah. So it just it was just I don't know. It just wasn't a good scene, and then because of that, like the following scene, like after that, it still kind of follows the book, but a little bit. Like Lee leaves the rock with Terry and all of that. And then Terry is the one that gets rid of the evidence instead of Lee being the one that hides it. And then I don't think Lee even told Terry what happened. I think Terry just kind of assumes that he did it himself or something.
yeah, because he was pretty blacked out, so I think that was something that was weighing on his conscience.
Yeah, so like in one of the scenes, like Ig goes back and is talking with Terry, and Terry has like a whole bunch of drugs and alcohol, and Ig tells him to do all of it. And I hated that scene, because like it was so unnecessary. Like it was unnecessary going that far. But Ig does it because he doesn't have the whole story of what happened that night. But Terry definitely should have died. Like straight up. He's doing like cocaine, shrooms, ecstasy, on top of drinking alcohol and whatever else he was doing. Like, he should have died.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was kind of also just kind of unnecessary, like you said. Like I said, I think they just followed up with Lee's character a little bit more, so much fallen into place.
Yeah, like if they even had shown, because like I said, like if you're kind of paying attention to Lee, like if you've read the book and you're kind of watching his character, there's definitely like little things he does and says that you can kind of understand that he has feelings for Marin at the very least. But it's just he doesn't do, like, they don't do it a lot. They don't work it up enough. And then one little point that I put down in my notes that I just want to kind of talk about, because it's kind of a deal in the book, is in the book, like Ig's main snake is changed it to like a python or some constrictor snake, which I don't exactly hate. Like, it makes sense because they're a little less dangerous to work with.
Yeah.
So I didn't. It was just like one little thing that I kind of noticed.
Yeah. I mean, but that's a good bridge into like the ending scenes, though.
So in the ending, Eric's character is like there, like he's shown up in the movie before, and follows the whole every homophobe is secretly gay kind of thing and all of that. And one thing I did enjoy that the change from the book to the movie was that he wasn't like Lee's bitch, as I so eloquently stated.
Yes, he was
Like
his own character.
in the book, he's his own person, so I enjoyed that. And then he still gets the amazing death. In the movie, it literally made me snort when I saw the scene. It was just so hilarious, and then Lee's reaction to it, like, kind of pushed me over the edge, and I was just like laughing at it.
Didn't you literally say like, "Oops, sorry, buddy"?
I don't know if he says that in the movie, but I think he says something like that in the book.
I'm just like, all right, that's the. See, like if that would have been beautiful, if they would have built Lee's character up more. That just kind of nonchalant about having shot the wrong dude, just completely like.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bruh.
Yeah. And then Egg, God, we alluded to this earlier, but Egg goes through a disgusting transformation. Like, I totally get the symbolism, but like it hits you over the head harder than the book does with the symbolism.
Yeah, it's gross.
Like, he learn like same as in the book, he learns that the cross, which is Marin's cross, obviously, makes him look normal. But unlike in the book, he just looks like normal Daniel Radcliffe. He doesn't look all burnt and everything like he does in the book. Which I didn't hate, because that would have been a lot of makeup and stuff, so it was kind of whatever. But when he takes off the cross for the final boss fight,
That's really what it is at this point.
he fucking, like, grows angel wings, flies up into the air like 20 feet, and then the wings, like, all burn off. And then he, like, does a final transformation into, like, some demon.
I think that was like kind of like the symbolism of the whole fallen angel aspect. Like that was him stepping over the line into like fallen angel because he was getting ready to actually like kill someone. He was intent on killing Lee.
Yeah, but it was just so ridiculous.
It was. The movie did it poorly, but I get the symbolism.
Yeah, like, it was just so ridiculous. Like, oh my god, someone's walking their ferret outside. Sorry. Um, yeah, one of my neighbors has a ferret and they like to walk it outside, but I've only seen it once. Um, it was just such a ridiculous scene that I was just kind of like, all right, I guess this is how it goes. Um,
We love that. They did Lee's death scene pretty good though.
They did. They followed it pretty much to what happened in the book, besides the fact that Lee is, I think, just stabbed with the pitchfork and then choked out with the snake. But instead, in the movie, like, Egg punches a hole through Lee, as you can do being a demon, and then a snake, like, crawls through the hole, up and around and into his mouth, and then I think it comes back out of the hole.
Yeah.
So that was a little much. I think that was ridiculous also, but
It was a grody amount of gore.
they did the gore well, though. I don't know if they used like practicals or what, but the snakes were obviously CG, but I think they did the gore fine. Like, it wasn't like stupid gory.
It just made me queasy. I don't want to think about a snake all up on my intestines.
Well, yeah, that obviously would make you queasy, but like the gore in of itself was not that bad. So, yeah, that was Horns the movie through us. It was super great.
It was definitely a good movie. It was a lot more blatant and more. It didn't hide. It didn't beat around the bush around a lot of the parts that I was expecting it to. So I give them props for that.
Mm-hmm. Some of the scenes, like one of the scenes that they added that I thought was, I don't know if it was ridiculous, if it was good ridiculous, or what, but in the movie, Egg is just followed by all of these reporters all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point when he goes to the bar for something, he tells the reporters that whoever is still conscious, I don't want to say alive because I don't know if any of them were actually killed, but if whoever's still conscious at the end of a fight, he'll give them an exclusive. So then it goes into an all-out rampage, and that was just a really, like, it was just a funny scene, a weird scene.
It was pretty hilarious. That woman reporter was kicking ass, not gonna lie.
She got hit in the face with the camera. Like, she was the first one to go down, so I was kind of shocked that she was the one that won. Because she was the first one to go down, so it was kind of like, what the fuck?
Talk about rebound effect.
Yeah. That was a lot. And then they kept the scene with the waitress telling lies. One thing that kind of bugged me that, like, goes off of the reporters, is that, like, so in the book, the horns can only influence someone to do things that they, like, were already, like, kind of thinking about doing. Like with Glennon, the donuts, the doctor's office scene. I think even they kind of show it in the movie too, like with Terry eating all of his drugs. That's kind of like, I feel like that was more to the, like, following the book's way, but I think the reporter scene is just like Ig telling them to do something, so then they do it, which isn't how the horns worked.
Yeah.
So that was a little whatever for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think my final thoughts that I put down in my notes were they found some beautiful woods to shoot in, and it really bugged me that they were missing the mystery of the treehouse. So I think that was just such a huge thing that they should have kept.
Yeah. I definitely feel like the movie did a decent job for what they could. Like I said, Lee's character could always be better. Marin was okay. I wish that there was more, because, like, in the book, you know, Lee as a kid is describing her as being Cherry, and that was kind of a big thing, like one of her main themes, like, about her character throughout the book. And they do reference the Cherry thing, like, in the movie, but, like, only once, and I think that kind of, like, it didn't add enough value to her character and to the role that she plays, so that was kind of disappointing. But overall, I think it was good. I'd give it a 4-star review.
Mm-hmm. And I think the whole Cherry thing is kind of more on the, I'll say the kid actresses who play Marin when she's younger. Like,
yeah,
they don't exactly go into that too much with it. Like, they don't make it seem like they don't, I don't know if it's like the costume designers or what, but like the kid actors definitely don't make her seem Cherry. Like, I think the older actress who plays her, I think she does a fairly well job of kind of keeping her, like, innocent and stuff.
yeah.
But they didn't, like, I think the kid actors kind of screwed that up. But
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I think that's all. As we said before, our next review is going to be on You, and then we'll also do a compare and contrast to the first season of the You Netflix series, since that follows along with the first book. So look out for those, and we'll get those out hopefully sooner next month instead of the end of the month like this. But yeah. Any final thoughts? Final words?
Nope, I think I'm good.
All right.
Bye.